I want you to just picture a teenager waking up. Before he even speaks a single word to his family, he's already reaching for his phone. Before his brain is even fully awake, hundreds of algorithms are literally fighting for his attention. A notification pops up, a short video plays, a like, another scroll. And without even realizing it, he's feeding an addiction, not to a substance, but to a completely new kind of pleasure engineered by modern technology. Welcome to our explainer on the rise of artificial happiness.
Let me ask you something directly. Have you ever felt just completely mentally drained after scrolling on your phone for hours? I know I have. We are living in the most entertained generation in all of human history. Yet, at the same time, we're seeing rising levels of depression, loneliness, and emotional numbness. So why is that? Why do we have endless entertainment right at our fingertips, but still feels so deeply empty? Okay, let's dive into this because the answer is actually quite profound. These feelings of emotional numbness are rising precisely because our human brains were simply never designed for endless stimulation. Without even knowing it, we've entered into the absolute greatest psychological experiment ever created by humanity. And to understand how this happened, we really need to look at the biology going on inside our heads. Chapter 1. The Rise of Fake Happiness. Let's explore the invisible biological mechanics driving this massive societal shift. To really get what's happening, we have to look at one specific chemical. Deep inside our brains, there's a powerful chemical called dopamine. Now, people usually call it the pleasure chemical, but honestly, that's a big misconception. Dopamine isn't just happiness. It's motivation, it's desire, it's anticipation. Simply put, it's the powerful chemical force that literally pushes us humans to seek out rewards. Think about ancient brains versus modern algorithms. Thousands of years ago, we really had to struggle to survive, right? We hunted for food, we worked hard to build relationships, and pleasure was earned very, very slowly. But today, we live in a world of modern algorithms. For the very first time in history, we get unlimited stimulation without putting in any effort at all. It's just tap, scroll, watch, and repeat. Chapter 2. How Dopamine Was Hijacked. We really have to realize that social media platforms didn't just become addictive by accident. They were carefully engineered that way, specifically to capture the absolute most valuable currency on Earth today. And that is your attention. It's called the variable reward loop. Basically, it's a slot machine effect right in your pocket. So first you scroll. Next, you anticipate finding something good. Then the reward hits, like a message or a notification. Or, maybe it doesn't. And finally, you repeat. Your brain just keeps checking because the next massive reward could appear at any single moment. Chapter 3. The Death of Boredom. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we have completely eliminated the natural, necessary state of being bored. Historically, boredom served a really vital purpose for us. It forced us to be creative, to reflect, and to problem solve. But today, look at how we're erasing all of our discomfort. Waiting in line? Just open TikTok. Feeling a little uncomfortable? Watch YouTube. Lonely? Scroll Instagram. By escaping every single uncomfortable emotion instantly with a screen, we're losing our natural ability to process our feelings. And without that natural discomfort, our patience and our motivation just slowly die away. And this is doing just incredible damage to our focus. Just trace the rapid collapse of our attention spans over time. 10-minute videos became 1-minute clips, which quickly turned into 15-second videos. Fast cuts and infinite scrolling are essentially training our brains for extreme speed. As a result, normal, quiet activities like reading a book, studying, or even just having a long conversation start to feel completely unbearable. Chapter 4. Escaping into Digital Illusions. So this destroyed attention span pushes us away from real life and deeply into carefully curated, highly stimulating artificial worlds that serve as emotional escape routes. Think about what these artificial escapes actually offer us. Social media gives us fake perfection, where we're comparing ourselves to millions of edited lives. Gaming gives us fake progress, rewarding us instantly when real-world success takes years. And pornography gives us fake intimacy, overstimulating the brain with endless novelty until normal life experiences begin to feel entirely numb. So the absolutely crucial point here is this concept of making thousands of comparisons. Our ancient tribal brains simply cannot handle making thousands of social comparisons to filtered, fake perfection every single day. Seeing that thousands of times a day creates deep, deep emotional exhaustion. It creates this silent feeling that no matter what we achieve in our real lives, it is simply never enough. And this brilliantly illustrates the modern loneliness crisis we are facing. We are connected globally, yet completely disconnected locally. I mean, we literally spend more time interacting with screens than with actual people. Families and friends sit right next to each other, staring at separate devices, remaining completely emotionally distant. Technology has connected humanity across the globe, sure, but it has completely disconnected humans sitting in the exact same room. I want to just pause for a second and ask this unsettling question very clearly and slowly. What happens to children raised entirely inside artificial stimulation? So many children today are growing up with tablets in their hands before they can even speak properly. Algorithms are now shaping their childhood development, their attention spans, and their impulse control. The long-term consequences are still being studied, but human development is undeniably changing.
Chapter 5. Pleasure versus true fulfillment. Here we get to the underlying paradox of our explainer.
We really need to look at this paradox. Why having more entertainment than any generation before us leaves us feeling completely empty inside. It comes down to pleasure versus fulfillment. Pleasure is temporary. It comes from consuming, and it often leaves us feeling numb. Fulfillment, on the other hand, is lasting. It comes from creating, building, and pushing through things that are uncomfortable. Binge watching and endless scrolling provide massive, instant pleasure, but absolutely no deep meaning, connection, or authentic living. The brain receives dopamine, but the soul receives nothing. This is just such a profound realization. The digital world slowly replaces authentic, lived experiences with curated online performances. We completely stop living in the moment, and instead we ask, how will this look online? We get all the chemical hits of pleasure, but none of the actual meaning. Chapter 6, Reclaiming Your Real Happiness. Because, we aren't machines designed just for stimulation, and there is a way out. Let's move to our next point and see how this builds into an actual roadmap for escaping the trap. First, build awareness of exactly how algorithms manipulate your attention. Next, actively limit your endless scrolling. Then, practice your focus. And finally, learn to tolerate boredom again. Because here's the beautiful truth. When we disconnect from constant digital noise, our minds finally quiet down, our emotions stabilize, and real life begins to feel real again. We're going to end today's explainer with this thought. Artificial happiness gives instant pleasure. Real happiness gives lasting meaning. The absolute greatest battle of the modern age is for your mind and your attention. So ask yourself, the very next time you feel a moment of quiet, will you reach for an artificial escape, or will you choose to stay in the real world?